Once you start to figure this out, a lot of people would say it takes a lot of balls to decide to come out there and speak about this when you have such a large platform. What made you decide that this was a problem that was significant enough that you wanted to start actually publicly discussing it on your platform, knowing that, obviously there's always going to be social backlash, potentially financial backlash, which I'm absolutely sure you've experienced. So what made you think that this was something that you actually wanted to discuss publicly?
This program, this platform, the Stu Peters Network, which evolved out of the Stu Peters Show, which evolved out of Patriotically Correct Radio, which evolved from a career bounty hunting and chasing fugitives. I mean, it's just been this constant evolution. This platform has always been about fighting for kids and saving lives. And so when I started talking about this stuff, and it wasn't even intentional, I didn't even realize how taboo the whole Jew thing was at all. Honestly, and I started getting the same response from everybody like I got from this pastor, and they were just like so taken aback. I mean, it was like they needed to be resuscitated after I would mention the word Jew or start talking to them about Israel. And it wasn't even that. It was more like even just Zionists or whatever it was, the early on language that I was kind of picking up on and learning as I was studying this stuff. And I started to listen. I'm a student of the game, so I like to go. And if I find something, I always encourage my audience to go and do their own research because I do the same thing. And so I don't trust anybody. I don't want to hear what you have to say. Like, your subjective commentary is great and it's funny and it's appealing and it's entertainment value for me, but I want to go learn the facts. And so I started doing that. And then when I was having these conversations and I was getting these reactions that were just, and then when those reactions permeated to inside of my own network, and I had people that no longer do now, but used to work with me or for me, they would say things like, you can't talk about this stuff on air. And I had researchers that worked for the network that would go out and gather information. They refused to do the work if it was for a subject that was like around Israel. So I had to fire these people. I had people quit, like, I will not be a part of, this anti-Semitism. And then I had people who were like, kind of really close to me as far as like brokering my advertising deals, were saying things like, you're going to start losing sponsors if you keep talking about this. And at that point, you come to a T in the road and you're like, okay, hold on a second. Wait, what do you mean? And then it has you, like, I was gaslighting myself into believing, well, Tucker Carlson must be really based on this stuff then, because he got fired from Fox, or there was some falling out there. It must be that he went down the Jew rabbit hole. It must be that he's talking about these Jews. And I went back and like incessantly looked for things that Tucker was saying in the mainstream while he was still at Fox about Israel. And I could not find anything that would have been damaging to Israel or Benjamin Netanyahu. I could not find anything that was naming a Jew or, really focusing on, well, that person is Jewish or that person is Jewish, or everybody that's at the top of all of our bureaucracies is Jewish, or everybody in the administration or the cabinet, or everybody at the top of the CDC or Pfizer, or the entire pandemic, that they all happened. I found none of that. And so I was like, okay, well, go talk to Alex Jones. He had invited me to come down and talk with him, and there was really no subject. So Daria at InfoWars is Alex Jones's, like, I think kind of like his right hand. At least that's the perception that I had in my dealings with Alex Jones, which predated this appearance by a long shot, because back in the days of COVID, I used to host Alex Jones's Fourth Hour every week. And I would appear on InfoWars all the time on all the various platforms. He would come on the Stu Peters Show and talk to me about, Jewish attacks that I did not realize were Jewish attacks. And so when he invited me to come down, and I asked Daria, which was the invitation by proxy, I said to her, well, what does Alex want to talk about? And she's like, it doesn't really matter. You guys are both open books. Just put the two of you at the desk and, I'm sure it'll be a great show. And I was excited about that. So I actually had Alex Roundtree, who works for the network. He's my right-hand man. I had him, I think he was in my house at the time, and I was like, hey, AJ wants us to come down to Austin. And, he's like, well, let's go. I'm like, well, when? And he's like, oh, let's just go right now. So we text Daria back and like, okay, well, we'll be there tonight. We could be on with Alex tomorrow. And I sat down with him, and that reaction was mind-blowing. And this was just like, he's like, so what do you think is going on in the world? And I'm just like, well, we have a problem with these Zionists. And at that point, it was not even really, if I would have known then what I now know, I think Alex probably would have needed CPR But I mean, at the time he was like smoking, and he was like he was adamant that we not talk about Israel. And remember, this is in the wake of Alex having Kanye on and having Nick Fuentes on and having these conversations. And I hadn't really watched those interviews. And so, but he came at me like, well, this feels like Kanye on steroids. And what do you tell you? Want to talk about Jews some more? And I was like, wow. And, you know, he was drinking and obviously very fat and not on his health kick at the time. I guess because he was chain smoking and drinking a lot, and he was really visibly angry and shook. And so for me, it was like, wow, well, if Alex Jones, I went and looked at Tucker Carlson, I couldn't find anything. I looked at some other edgy, you know, hosts, and I really couldn't find anything. And if Alex is going to be, you know, like this defensive in his response to gaslight and kind of like project and use the, you know, Hegelian dialectic type conversation, lead you astray. Well, what about this group of people? What about that group? You could tell it was very intentionally deflective. And he was very visibly upset during commercial breaks. And it was just all kind of mind blowing to me. And if Alex, who's supposed to be like the tip of the spear of the information warfare, isn't talking about this, then this is something that I really need to look into, because there's obviously a lot of truth to this. And so then, it graduated very quickly. And obviously the Jews aren't very good at PR, and they just keep like trying to fuck kids and bomb people and, you know, like rape and sex trafficking and like, poison people and the Greater Israel thing and the slaughter of Christians and the slaughter of white people, like all of these things that they're not really good at hiding it, but the hubris is just unbelievable because they do it right out in the wide open, and every other group of people. So, I guess that's kind of how it evolved. And now it's like, geopolitically speaking, foreign policy speaking, domestic policy now, people being arrested. Trump has just taken this thing warp speed. And so my awakening has been, I was actually talking about writing a book and, you know, calling it like in real time, like Stu Peters, red pilled in real time. And then just go back to my shows, to the monologues that I would prepare for all of my shows starting back in 2020 with George Floyd, and then obviously the pandemic, and then Trump, and then Biden, and like going through this entire progression. I think Red Pilled in Real Time would be a great book, because you can actually look back at episodes where I was on it and I wanted to tell the truth. I just didn't know the truth. I didn't know all of it. And to that extent, I still don't know the whole truth, which is why I remain a student of the game, and I just keep digging, and I just keep researching, and I just keep bringing my findings to my audience.